And we're back. Tom Gibson here with Chuck Augustin, and we're in Nye County. And so when we left, we were speaking of and discussing protective orders and the problems that they have. And I just want to say one quick thing. In theory, I don't have a problem with protective orders. I just don't like the way that they're enforced, because you don't have a jury. You don't have, I mean, you have a judge, but the evidence isn't there properly. And someone may have grounds for having a protective order or extending the order, and it's not because they don't know how to present evidence to the court, or vice versa. The court will grant or extend an order when the evidence isn't there, because the other person doesn't know how to defend against the accusations properly.
Yeah, and like we said offline, it's a tool that is used for revenge more than anything else. The purpose, like so many of the laws, I believe, have kind of gone away, and it's all about revenge and paybacks, and they use the system, who is more than ready to accommodate, and it just ends up a nightmare for people.
Oh, absolutely. And if the ramifications weren't so severe, then I would be much more comfortable with protective orders. But the way they're used, abused, and not taken seriously by a lot of the people that are in the system, it just makes life miserable for honest people.
Yeah. Okay, we got a caller.
Anonymous.
Anonymous. How you doing, Anonymous?
I'm not very happy with our local judicial system, because I am one of the people that I got not a restraining order on me, but a protective order on me. And everything in the protective order was false, not true. This person just wanted to get retaliation on me, because I found out that he was running a business, a nonprofit business, under false pretenses. And he said that if I did not apologize, make a, if you will, cyber apology, public cyber apology on his Facebook page, that he was going to take legal action on me, and I was not going to apologize for doing the right thing and exposing a fraudulent business. And I have proof. It doesn't, I have proof. Anyway, so this guy filed he's not even a friend. I barely even know him. I just worked in his yard for his business, and I gave him money and food and all kinds of things. And then when I found out the truth, then he put this not restraining, but a protective order on. But it's a non-dom. They call it a non-dom, and a domestic violence one, and a non-dom. And I don't believe there are any restraining orders here. Anyway, only protective ones. But I tell you, the judge, and his name was, can I mention the judge's name?
Sure.
It wasn't even one of our judges in town. They brought in a cop. He used to be a cop, Judge, what was his name?
Justice Court A, right?
Yeah, Gus Sullivan.
Right.
And instead of, he never once, I had proof of evidence that the stuff that this man had said about me was false, complete false, or he had no evidence that I stalked him. He said that I was stalking his home. I did not. He said that I blackmailed him because he's a homosexual with AIDS, and I respected that. I didn't hold it against him, but he had to bring it up. He put it on the protective order and said she's blackmailing me for my HIV status. It never happened. And the judge
so he used used all this as revenge, right? Because he was mad at something you had said on the internet.
Right, exactly. And he wanted retribution against me.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying.
Huh?
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, no, my question is, did you hire an attorney to come to defend you on the
sir, I couldn't afford one, but I was on the internet for a whole month, garnering all the information that I could to protect myself. I even learned about how to file a motion for $51 to do that. It didn't even come up. It wasn't even mentioned in my hearing. I was bamboozled. And I even told the judge, I said, Judge, if you give him what he wants, then I'm going to be victimized twice.
Yeah.
He didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to see any of the, stuff. But I do have a question. I mean, I've looked on the federal pages about carrying a gun, and I have a CCW, and I don't own any of my own guns. But I borrow one. And
Well, I mean, you're not. Be careful what you say, because anything you say, could be used against you by others. I'll tell you that if you are under an extended protective order or a temporary protective order, and you are in possession of a firearm, you are in violation of 18 U.S.C. 922 G8. And I used to be a federal public defender assistant out of Memphis, Tennessee, and I had more than one case where I had to defend a person for violation of that particular law. And one of them in particular, I actually won. I got the evidence suppressed because the cops were idiots when they went to go arrest him for it. They didn't have a warrant, and they forced him out of his house at gunpoint. They searched his house and found all kinds of firearms in the house, but I got it all suppressed, and that was the end of the case. That's United States versus Michael Saari, S-A-A-R-I, if you ever want to look it up.
I can't believe that this has been done to me when I didn't do anything. The judicial system did not defend me. They didn't care. They let an evil person do something to an innocent person. And now I can't even carry a gun. I can't protect myself.
Well, you can if you can have when the thing is expired. It probably, I don't know how long he extended it for.
It was for a year, but Mr. Gibson, the thing is I haven't received any notification of an extended. I went to court for it, but nobody has told me that I can't have a gun. It is not anywhere on the paperwork.
That's the problem with this law that Chuck and I were just bringing up, of all the flaws in the law itself and how it's how the law is enforced, and they don't. Most people are not told by the judges, it's a federal offense. To have a firearm while you're under a protective order, and there's nothing, why people are not given that warning, and they're warned Miranda warnings if they have a pot seed in their possession, and yet they, I'm using that as an example, and yet you're not warned by the courts when this is really important. As a matter of fact, that's a good thought I just had. I'm not patting myself on the back. Someone needs to bring this forward, and you could potentially get the thing set aside for the court if you can prove it, failing to warn you, because even if you are in a criminal case, you're read your rights by the court before court starts in misdemeanor court, and then in district court, the judge will admonish your rights as well, as long as as well as your attorney. If you're not read your rights, and then you are, as a matter of fact, if they don't read your rights properly, it's called an admonishment, then you have the potential of having that conviction thrown out on after the judgment. So that said, you might look into considering filing something, a petition with the Justice Court to set aside the protective order because you weren't properly warned and that you need an entirely new hearing. And then when they deny it, you just, because they will, you appeal that to the district court, and you'll probably get some mileage out of that. I can't promise you results, but that is, that's one way to get some help.
Well, that all costs money, Mr. Gibson, and I don't have the money for a lawyer at this point in time, but I did educate myself when I went in, and So I'm not carrying the gun, and but I just I didn't even know. And I looked on the federal about the federal their laws, and it says a protective order. There's 4 things that you have to be the numerations. You have to at least be part of one of them, and part of all 4 of them. And I am not. The only thing that I am is that I was at a hearing that said an extended protective order was put in place, but it is not a loved one. It is not domestic violence. It is not a blood member. It is not dating. It didn't. The judge shouldn't. It wasn't even in the judge's jurisdiction to be able to give this to me, and because I did do my homework, but I didn't. Anyway, but I don't. It didn't say. According to the feds, I can still carry a gun.
Well, okay. It says you actually you're accurate. Remember earlier you were talking about non-dom.
Non-domestic violence.
Yeah, that means that there's not a domestic relationship. Okay. When I was speaking mainly of domestic relationships where it's either a husband, wife, intimate, a boyfriend, or even a roommate.
None.
So those are the ones I was talking about. If there's just somebody that doesn't like you and disagrees with you, then no, there's no federal. There shouldn't be a federal prohibition according to the laws I understand it.
Right. But what about domestic here in town?
You mean local law against it?
It's non-dom. It says on there non-domestic violence.
Well, if it's non-domestic violence, then as far as the firearms restriction, I don't believe the federal law applies, but you could still be in trouble with local law enforcement not with the firearm, but you're still under the protective order. You still have the potential of being arrested for even a false claim if the cop just happens to believe you or the other person. I'm sorry?
If he feels like that wasn't enough and he wants more retribution, he might make up some fake thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once this has happened to you, and it happened to me over 3 years ago, you realize that you are totally vulnerable to almost any allegation anyone should make. And your whole defense is in your lawyer. And it should be a whole series of defense. The police, the investigation, the evidence, all these things should add up to an innocent person not being charged, much less found guilty. But that isn't the case, I found, certainly through the charge process.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to go to break, Anonymous. Thanks for calling in.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you for having this show today. It's very interesting.
Thank you.